Hi there, this is Ranjit from techtobuzz.com, and today I have the review of this Netgear dual band, simultaneous dual band router. The model name is WNDR 3700. As this is one of the high-end routers from Netgear, you can expect all the goodies like simultaneous dual band, gigabit Ethernet ports. It has a USB port at the back, and it also has the feature of guest networks. And I have been using this router now for more than 2 weeks. So let's get into the details of this router. So this is the Netgear router. I have attached the stand, and you can place it vertical like this, or you can remove the stand and place it in a horizontal position. I have tested this router only in the vertical position, and the first thing that struck me about this router is how big is this router? It's a huge router. I have some other routers for comparison. This is a Belkin N router. This is also a fairly large router, and we have the Asus N56U. This is again a dual band router, and as I'll just place it over here, and you can see how big is this Netgear router. So now let me just do a close-up. These are some of the LEDs. This is the on-off, and we have the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi indicator. The 2.4 gigahertz lights up in green, and whenever there is Wi-Fi activity it blinks, and the 5 gigahertz lights up in blue color. Then we have one more LED that's not lighted up right now for the USB. Next, for internet activity, if you're connected to the internet, it shows as green, and wherever there is internet activity it blinks. And 1, 2, 3, 4 LEDs for Ethernet. We have these two physical buttons, and with this button, the first button, that's for Wi-Fi. You can switch on the Wi-Fi on or off with this. Sadly, but if you switch it off, both the bands 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz, both of them get shut off. And next button is for the WPS Wi-Fi setup. And moving towards the back, we have a physical on-off switch. This is for the power adapter, and we have 4 Ethernet ports. All of them are gigabit ports, and 1 WAN port. This is also again a gigabit port, and we have 1 USB 2 port. You can attach hard drives to this. So that's it at the back, and it's nicely marked. All the ports and everything are nicely marked. On the front, it's glossy plastic. So in the looks department, the router looks really good, and this is the 360 degrees overview of the router. Looks pretty good. Now let's get to some of the technical specifications for the router. This is a really powerful router, and the processor in this is 680 megahertz, and the Wi-Fi band it supports is 2.4 and 5 gigahertz simultaneous dual band, and this router has 8 internal antennas. So, there is no provision for adding any external antennas, and the RAM for this router is 64 MB, and the flash memory inside it is 8 MB. The most important thing to test with the Wi-Fi router is the Wi-Fi range and the throughput that it offers. And this router, I had to do 2 tests. That is one on the 2.4 gigahertz band and the second on the 5 gigahertz band. To make the test consistent, I'll be using this procedure for all my routers test. For the 2.4 gigahertz and the 130 Mbps speed, I'll be using the MacBook Air, and even for the 5 gigahertz, 130 Mbps and 300 Mbps test, I'll be using the MacBook Air. Unfortunately, the MacBook Air doesn't support the 300 Mbps at 2.4 gigahertz. So what I did is I purchased this USB Wi-Fi dongle, and it's from Netgear. The model name is N300. Model number is WNA3100. And for the 2.4 gigahertz 300 Mbps test, I'll be using this dongle on a Windows XP machine. All other tests were done on a Mac OS X Lion. To further standardize these tests, I have divided this apartment where I do all my testing into 4 zones. The first zone is in this room, and the Wi-Fi device, that's our MacBook Air, sits 5 feet from the router. There is no obstruction, there is clear line of sight to the router. And the next zone, that's known as Zone B, is approximately 23 feet from the router, and there is one brick wall between them. We have the Zone 3, that's 23 feet from the router, and we have 2 walls in between them. Some of the routers have a problem reaching the zone C. And finally, we have the zone D, that's about 50 feet from the router. And we have 2 brick walls and 1 thick wooden door between them. For all the Wi-Fi testing, the Wi-Fi encryption was set at WPA2 with AES encryption. Now, first I'll talk about the 2.4 gigahertz band. As expected, the router performed great with the zone A, B, and C. I was getting full signal at the zone A and zone B, which I normally get with almost all of the routers. And generally with the C zone, some of the routers I see a dropout. And with this Netgear router in the zone 3, I was getting full bars, and but occasionally it was dropping at about from 5 bars to 4 bars. But I did not have any problems while browsing the net or streaming videos. I streamed videos up to 720p from YouTube, and they were performing brilliantly. No issues over there. And particularly moving towards the zone D, which is a big problem with all the routers I've tested, there was a serious drop in the throughput. But you can do general browsing over there, but streaming high definition videos is a problem in that zone. This is not a problem with this Netgear router. All routers at the zone D performs really bad. Other thing I wanted to talk about this router is that in zone B, where I do all my media testing, where the PS3 and the WDTV is there, I stream my media from my NAS that's connected to the router and stream it wirelessly to this media devices like WDTV and PS3. I did not have any problems with normal media and normal videos, but I had a problem with some videos that were encoded at 1080p and 720p. These videos are specifically encoded at a very high bit rate, and they require a constant bit rate of about 25 to 26 Mbps. And at times this router was struggling to provide a clean throughput. The problem was that it was able to stream content at about 28-29 Mbps, but for a few seconds the throughput was dropping to about 5 or 8 Mbps, and that was causing some lag. Overall, I would rate the Wi-Fi throughput at 2.4 gigahertz, above average, but I expected a little bit more from the 2.4 gigahertz band of this Netgear router. Now moving towards the 5 gigahertz band, do note that the 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi range is not as good as the 2.4 gigahertz. This is not a problem with this Netgear router, but this is universal for every 5 gigahertz router. And generally while testing the 5 gigahertz range, I get the range only in the zone A, B, and C. And even with this router, it was the same case. And this router performed brilliantly in the zone A, B, and C. I was consistently getting much more throughput, and I was able to transfer even large files pretty fast on the 5 gigahertz. For your comparison, just look at this chart where I show you the actual Wi-Fi throughput achieved by this router. The first thing is, on the first row there is the 2.4 gigahertz band at 130 Mbps, and as you can see in zone A I was getting 42.8 Mbps, and zone B 27.9, and zone C 13.9, and finally in zone D it was just 1.6 Mbps. Moving to the 300 Mbps on the 2.4 gigahertz band, as the MacBook Air did not support this, for doing this testing I used the Netgear N300 USB adapter, and the results were not that encouraging, but the range that I got was somewhat higher. Moving to the 5 GHz band, this test was done on the MacBook Air. The results, as you can see, are impressive on the 300 Mbps and even at the 150 Mbps. So if you are into too much of HD streaming and stream a lot of big files or move around a lot of big files on the Wi-Fi network, 5 GHz band on this router can help you a lot. Another thing I want to talk about this router is the facility of guest network. You can set up guest network with this router, and with this particular router, that's the Netgear 3700, we can set not one but two guest networks. So one in the 2.4 GHz band and the second at the 5 GHz band. So if you want, you can actually run simultaneously 4 Wi-Fi networks with this router, which is exceptional. Now let's look at the admin interface of this Netgear 3700 router. This is basically the wireless setting page, and you can set both the networks, that's 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz from this page. we can enable or disable the SSID broadcast. The settings, in my opinion, are just basic. Sadly, you cannot restrict the 2.5 or the 5 gigahertz to just say N network or a G network. By default, the B, G, and N networks are enabled. Also in the mode, they give us three options, basically up to 54 Mbps, up to 130 Mbps, and up to 300 Mbps. Do notice that the omission of WEP encryption, and I feel that it's a good thing that they have omitted WEP encryption. And similarly, you can set the settings for the 5 gigahertz that works on the A and the N band. As I have mentioned before, this router supports guest network, and these are the settings for the guest network. This is basically for the BGN, that means the guest network on the 2.4 gigahertz band, and we can also set one more guest network on the 5 gigahertz band. Some of the unique features with the guest network is that we can enable the wireless isolation option. By default, the guest network cannot access our main network, but if for some reason if you want the guest to access your local network, you can even do that. This router also has one USB port at the back, and to be frank, the features that it offers is a bit limited. One of the basic things that it can do is you can attach a USB pen drive or a portable hard drive to the USB port at the back, and hence your entire network can access the files on that storage device. So basically you can use it as a mini NAS. Also, this router supports media serving capabilities. So basically you can stream, for example, if you have movies, etc. on your thumb drive to DLNA devices like PS3, Xbox, or media players like WDTV. This is a really good feature. I tested this with PS3 and again with my WDTV, and it worked perfectly. I was able to stream. I tried it with a couple of movie clips, and I had no problem streaming them. Regarding the USB port at the back, there are two things that I miss that are omitted with this router. Is that this router does not have any built-in download manager or a torrent client. So you cannot download a file automatically on this router whenever your PC is switched off. Some of the routers in this range have started providing this functionality. With the USB port attached, this router supports various file formats such as NTFS, FAT16, 32, ext2 and ext3. But for my testing and to keep it simple, I used a USB thumb drive like this, and I formatted it in the FAT32 format, and I transferred some files to see the speed of the transfer via this thumb drive. I was getting a write speed of 5.1 MB per second and a read speed of about 11.8 MB per second, which to be frank is really good. So you can easily attach a portable hard drive and use it like a NAS with this router. The throughput on the gigabit Ethernet port was also good. I was getting a throughput of about 480 Mbps with LAN to LAN transfers. Also, the good thing about this router is that I did not have any problems accessing this drive on a Windows-based computer or a Mac. I did not need to install any additional software to access this thumb drive or the attached hard drive. Now what I'm going to do is attach this power meter by which we're going to measure the actual power consumption by this router. My power meter is attached and it's actually showing us how many watts of power is consumed in real time. Right now the router is switched on and the Wi-Fi is switched on for both the 2.4 GHz and the 5 GHz, and one computer is connected via the Ethernet cable. And as you can see, the power consumption is about 5.5 to 5.6 watts. You can even shut off the Wi-Fi, and I'm going to do that. And in a minute, you'll see that the power consumption has gone down. If we shut off the Wi-Fi, the router consumes just about 4 watts of power. So overall, this router is pretty efficient, and on an average with Wi-Fi switched on and one Ethernet computer attached, it consumes approximately 5.5 watts of power. To conclude this review, this is a good simultaneous dual band router, and it has some unique features like multiple guest networks, and it works great on a Mac or a PC. Also, the 5 GHz band performance was impressive, but the 2.4 GHz band I expected a little bit more. So I would give this router 8 out of 10. If you think this video was helpful, I'll appreciate if you click on the like button given below. You can also subscribe to my channel by clicking on this link, and that thereby you'll be notified of my future videos. That's it for now. This is Ranjit for tech2buzz.com, and hopefully I'm going to see you in my next video.